Memphis. All my dad ever wanted to do was play the guitar. In high school, and right after, he and his buddies had a band. They toured, cut a few singles, even got some regional airplay. He dreamed he could take it further and wanted to go to Memphis. There he'd play the clubs, do session work, and then maybe, who knows? But his life was circumscribed. Legacy college, naval engineering degree, and future position in our small town's gentry. After his first year of college, to my father's family's collective horror, he dropped out and took a summer job with the post office. He never left. It was the first independent decision he'd made in his entire life, and there wasn't a thing Grandpa could do about it. After taking an early retirement, and with a zeal and enthusiasm he never focused on being a dad, he devoted himself to grandfatherhood. I have copies of the videotapes he made for my brother's kids, standing in front of the dark mahogany dresser in his bedroom, playing bluegrass songs. His broad hands strum steadily, his fingers pick with precision and speed, and slide along the ebony neck of the flat-top guitar he'd crafted himself in his basement workshop. The workshop where he now makes tiny working mandolins, puzzle boxes, and wooden trains. I'd watched him steam the thin mahogany sides in long galvanized trays on my mother's stovetop. The guitar's contours fit his body perfectly. He still plays it today. I'd show the tape to musician friends. They'd smile at the dour, spectacled man in his codger's uniform of blue work shirt and baggy navy blue dickies, held up with broad elastic suspenders. A striking resemblance to Grant Wood's American Gothic farmer, with a hollow body guitar instead of a pitchfork. Then their eyes focus on the long, flat-tipped fingers flying over pickguard and frets. And when he breaks to announce Shady Grove, Turkey in the Straw, or whatever song he'll play next, they turn to me in a kind of awe. Your dad, man, he's good. But he never made it to Memphis. Before enough money and motivation could be banked for a trip to Tennessee, my mother, we 3 boys, and the mortgage arrived in succession. In the dining room of the house he constantly had to patch and repair. My mother kept a stack of photo albums in a maple hutch. Most were filled with familiar family scenes. One was different. A black-bound scrapbook with memories printed across its cover in tarnished silver script. It held images of my father's pre-married life. In it, I'd seen a photograph of my dad and the white Impala hardtop, which would have taken him to Tennessee, parked next to my grandfather's house. In the black and white picture, it's a clear, bright afternoon, and he's leaning against the front fender, legs crossed at the ankles, and veiny arms folded across his proud chest. He fills out a white t-shirt, snug Levi's, and sports a broad, confident smile. Ray-Bans conceal his eyes. Ray-Bans conceal his eyes. I know from standing in that same gravel driveway that he's facing southwest. Maybe he was looking toward that faraway city and his bright future there. My father played all the time when we were growing up. After dinner each night, he'd lean against the washing machine by the back door, the corners of his mouth tight and level, looking through the wavy panes of glass. He'd stare off into the sunset on spring and fall evenings and into the cold, dark western sky in winter. In the summer, he'd start later, after an additional round of chores. And if it wasn't raining, he'd stand outside to play. I remember one night just past twilight. He was leaning against the back of the white Ford station wagon which had replaced the coupe, 3 miles, 10 years, and a lifetime from where that old black and white picture had been taken. Start again. My father played all the time when we were growing up. After dinner each night, he'd lean against the washing machine by the back door, the corners of his mouth tight and level, looking out through the wavy panes of glass. He'd stare off into the sunset on spring and fall evenings, and into the cold, dark western sky in winter. In the summer, he'd start later, after an additional round of chores, and if it wasn't raining, he'd play outside. I remember one night just past twilight. He was leaning against the back of the white Ford station wagon, which had replaced the coupe. 3 miles, 10 years, and a lifetime from where that old black and white picture had been taken. In the yellow light from the laundry room window, his deeply shadowed profile looked just like even older sepia-toned photographs of my grandfather from that same old book of memories. My brother and I watched him. We sat silently, pressed against each other on the granite slab steps which still held the summer day's heat, warm against the cool skin of our bare, scabbed and scratched little boy legs. The polished mahogany and satiny spruce glowed softly, and the tuning keys glinted like the attendant fireflies. The polished mahogany and satiny spruce glowed softly, and the tuning keys glinted in the moonlight like the attendant fireflies. He stood there alone in his world, with the guitar held high across his stomach, like Buddy Holly in the Ed Sullivan Show kinescopes. We closely followed every motion and listened to each note float off into the darkness. We closely followed every motion and listened to each note float off into the darkness, while he played Johnny Cash songs to the lilacs, spruce trees, Rose of Sharon, and the faraway birthplace of rock and roll.